Welcome to MOBE Mondays. Today's panel, Hip Hop, the Second Act, is powered by our longtime sponsor, AARP. Please welcome our host this evening, author, producer, filmmaker, voice actor, activist, creative executive, and entertainment branding specialist, Thembisa Mshaka. Thembisa is a founder of Mshaka Media and has held executive positions at Sony Music and Gavin Magazine. She's a 5-time Voice Arts Award nominee for her commercial work and is the voice of the New York Liberty 20th season, the WNBA, the Muhammad Ali Center's legacy video, and the Women of Team USA ahead of the 2021 Olympics for NBC's Peacock streaming service. Turning it over to you, Thembisa.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. It is my honor and pleasure to be here with you this evening. Going to just kick it off and introduce our panelists. First, we have Grammy-nominated hip-hop artist, actress, philanthropist, and co-host of syndicated radio show Cafe Mocha, the amazing My California Sister, YoYo, ambassador of the National College Resource Center, teaching literacy through hip-hop. She's also the founder of YoYo School of Hip Hop Arts and Academics program, and also an ambassador of the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville. Welcome, YoYo, to MOBE Mondays tonight. We also have another legend in our midst, the incredible Vinnie Brown, Grammy Award-winning member of the legendary hip-hop trio Naughty by Nature and owner of Uncle Vinnie Productions. East Orange, New Jersey native, is now ambassador and director of community outreach for MoneyAv.com, a banking services tech firm. And we have Dupre, DOITALL, member of platinum selling group Lords of the Underground and co-founder of the 211 Community Impact. He produces 24 Hours of Peace, the Family Unity Festival, and is currently running for West Ward Councilman in Newark, New Jersey. You don't see him right now because he is coming off of an airplane, so he'll be joining us in progress. You know, this is how it is when you're campaigning. So thank you so much for joining us, Vin and YoYo, and thank you to our sponsors as well. I really just want this to be a conversation, you know, where we can talk a little bit about this idea of getting older. And, you know, when I look at you guys, I mean, we're all pretty much the same age. I'll be turning 50 in December. I feel like it's all of the wisdom and none of the evidence. You know, none of us look our age, but we have all the wisdom to be able to really say,
yeah,
you know, what we can do differently and better than before, and how we can make an impact on a broad scale to impact the generations coming after us. And so really just want to, you know, take a moment to discuss this idea of longevity, of pivots, whether that's career-wise or in terms of your connection to your communities, and really how you've used your, you know, your celebrity status for good and to create change. But first, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of hip-hop legends and icons being forgotten, also certainly leaving us too soon. Most recently, our brother Biz Markie, who mentioned in a recent article that he had felt forgotten by hip hop when he was interviewed by E! And I just wonder if you've ever felt, you know, as artists, that you weren't necessarily getting your due credit for certain things that you had accomplished or that you had impacted or, you know, really created within the genre. I certainly think about this in terms of YoYo, your impact on, you know, being a woman MC, and Vin, for you guys in terms of Naughty by Nature's crossover and really, you know, pop star power, while certainly remaining authentically hip hop. You know, have you had moments where you felt like you hadn't gotten your just due or had been forgotten about, and, you know, may Biz rest in peace, and, you know, all of our love and condolences to his family and to everyone who knew and loved him and experienced him in terms of being an entertainer. But, you know, who wants to take that first?
YoYo.
Oh, all right. Hey, Vinny. Hey, thanks for that wonderful intro, and thanks to for having me. It is such a pleasure to see Vinny and to see you and to talk hip hop and to have this beautiful conversation. I've always felt like the black sheep of hip hop. Of course, coming from the West Coast and being a female and coming from an era where we were beefing with the East Coast and where hip hop started and who was the representative of hip hop and hip hop versus rap and gangster music and who was turning hip hop into some gangster, verbiage. So, and then being a female, I just felt like the black sheep all the time because, I felt like a lot of respect came from the East Coast. And so I always felt like I had to, represent more than who I was. I mean, we come from a generation anyway where we had to show that we were humble. We had to show that we weren't thugs. We had to, show that our music wasn't changing the streets and that we weren't responsible for what was happening in society. And we, basically wanted to, we were young role models without trying to be role models. So it was a lot of pressure. So the respect, no. I was just representing for women and trying to find my way along the way. Has hip hop paid homage to those who represent hip hop? Are taken? I've always felt like the middleman in hip hop. And I had to take myself out of being the middleman in hip hop and make myself like, you can't keep using me and representing me. I need to use myself and represent myself. So me taking leadership took a lot of confidence, and me staying busy and active and showing up in a lot of, sometimes my worst insecure days allowed me to have a voice for myself, have a voice for my community, have a voice for hip hop, have a voice for women. And no, the just due hasn't been done. And I don't look for it, but I definitely show up.
Yeah, it's important that you restate the history when you're a woman in hip hop, because a lot of the time women are omitted from those conversations about, milestones and breaking records or, winning accolades or giving back. It's typically the conversation is limited to, what have men done for hip hop and for the generations, who look up to its models. So, I appreciate that you stay vocal and that you stay present so that, nobody can pretend that you didn't exist and that you didn't do everything that you've done over the last almost 30 years.
Yes.
So, Vin, let's go to you and talk a little bit about, this idea of, maybe feeling like you guys didn't get just due credit in certain situations, or maybe you had to work a little bit harder to establish, your value in certain situations, whether that was on the road or, in terms of, your intellectual property, your licensing. I mean, I've seen, the Naughty brand expand quite a bit over the years. So maybe talk a little bit about, what it takes to stay recognizable as a brand, right?
Right. So Naughty, we're in a unique situation as well because we're from New Jersey, and New Jersey is considered the armpit of New York, the New York tri-state area. And of course, New York City is the birthplace of hip hop. So they considered people from Jersey like country, and you might as well be from Alabama. So for us.
Oh, so you're in their shadow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for us coming into hip hop, we literally had to fight our way for credibility in New York, And then, as YoYo mentioned, when we came out, Queen Latifah, we were under Queen Latifah's Flavor Unit management. She was out on the West Coast filming and living single. We had a lot of allies. We were introduced to YoYo and Ice Cube and everyone out there. And Tretch and Tupac, had this relationship. So not only are we from Jersey and black sheeps to New York City, but now we're on the West Coast, and because of that relationship with Tupac, especially when the East Coast, West Coast thing was going on, Naughty was caught in the middle, So New York didn't really rep for us. And then West Coast, they accepted us because we were from the East Coast, but we were still from the East Coast. So that was a weird situation to be in, you know? And till this day, we feel the backlash that, you know, when especially a lot of New Yorkers, they talk about the best groups in hip hop, you know, they never, you got the Locks and Dipset and God knows who.
Mob Deep and Gangstar, and they don't talk about
So we're not even mentioned, you know, and KG kind of feels that since we did have the big crossover success, it's like there's a bit of kind of envy that goes along with that. But you know, for me, it is what it is. And like you say, I've always understood the power of the brand. I've always understood the power of the internet. I always say, when I was introduced to a website and it said www, that meant World Wide Web. So as soon as I saw that in like the early mid 90s, I was like, World Wide Web, that means you have your own television station and you can reach directly to the people. So I was like, bet. I'm going to invest in this and always make sure we have a presence, regardless if you sign to a label or not. And sure enough, you know, from the 90s when MySpace was happening and it turned into Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, everything you see going on now, we've always invested in that. So we've always had a digital presence. And I notice a lot of our peers, they kind of fall by the wayside because they're not taking advantage of the technology. So you have it where today, I mean, there's always room for your presence in this digital space, as well as, you know, we're blessed to have this Naughty brand. And hey, before I give my money to the Lamborghini guy or the jewelry guy, I'm going to reinvest in that Naughty by Nature brand. And 30 years later, it's definitely paid off, because no matter what they say about this group, that group, or the other, my thing is, look, this brand and this logo has to stand out like McDonald's.
Right. So can you guys give me your insight in terms of how you feel the relationship is between artists of the golden era and our time period, in terms of when, you know, the music that we were responsible for creating or breaking, in my case, doing campaign work or, you know, sort of working as a journalist. What is the relationship you feel between this generation of artists that we have now? Do you feel like it's strained? Do you feel like there's very little connection? Do you feel like there's proper homage being paid? Do you feel like they understand the history? Or do you feel like they see us as sort of, you know, being OGs and that's cool, but we're over here doing what we're doing?
Right.
You know, like,
I think this generation is very disrespectful, although I love them. And that's just me being like an auntie saying it. I have kids, you know, my daughter's 27 and I have a 17-year-old and I have a bonus daughter that's kissing 30.
I mean the artist, YoYo, not your family members.
I know.
Auntie. Okay.
With that being said, this generation, their generation has this fearless, we don't need your help. See, I think, you know, more so we want, you know, I think when we were coming up, not really didn't know how to really bring a team. I know for me, I didn't know how to bring a team. This generation don't care if you bring a team. We don't want to be a part of your team. They just don't respect the OGs. They don't respect those who come before them. They don't play by your rules. They don't care what your rules are. And to a certain degree, it's worked for them. You know, sometimes I say to myself, not that I wish I had that kind of I don't give a damn attitude, but it's worked in their favor in certain situations, because there is a ceiling being placed. There is a wall that you have to break down in this industry, and they never saw the wall. And so that's a good thing for them, because they didn't need anyone's acceptance. They went out, they did it themselves. But as far as the respect level, I mean, it's really hard to mold or find an artist that you want to work with unless you're willing to bend the way they want you to bend as well, I think.
I think what you said, though, is very important. The reason they don't see a wall is because y'all kicked it down.
Period.
Right? You bulldozed through it, right? And so there's a certain level of honor and sort of reverence that I think is important. And I would say that in other genres like country or in rock music, the reverence is there. You know, the young country artists, they love Dolly Parton and Reba
Yeah,
McEntire. You know, like they understand their place in the music continuum.
yeah.
And I think that that is something that is less valued within hip hop because of the sort of focus on youth and immediacy and urgency, right? And not so much on history and legacy.
And there's a lot of uneducated gatekeepers. What do you think, Vin?
Yeah, Vin, come in on this conversation. I think that I agree with that, YoYo.
Yeah. I do think that it's very different for our young people out here today. For one, they have the internet and they have this tool that they can, basically exploit themselves by way of, the internet and all of these digital tools. Unfortunately, what we see happening now, and this is where they could stand and pay attention, that they're using it to exploit themselves for short-lived careers. If you look at what's happening with all of our young brothers, they're beefing, they're slinging guns, they're gangbanging over the internet, going live, all of this for views, just to, get clout. And as you see the other day, they're not even paying attention, going for the live stream, getting clout, but get assassinated right there on live.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And it's happening all the time, our young girls. I remember YoYo and them coming up with the IBWC crew, teaching young girls about how strong they are. But now it's so easy to get butt naked and throw on a thong and expose your body parts just for clout. But what they have to realize is that there's so much of that out there that it's going to be short-lived, and it's about the content of the music. So it reflects in the music that you don't have many records that's sticking around. You listen to a song that came out 2-3 years ago, you're like, oh wow, I remember that song, but there's no real content there. So I think that's the gift and the curse for these young people. And really, we're in a real iffy time because our young people are really cannibalizing themselves, especially young Black men. It's like, you would think they would learn from the Biggie and Tupac situation, but now it's happening so much faster that some of the kids will be like, well, you know what? If I die, then I'm going to be this icon. I'm going to be Pop Smoke or King Von, and my music is going to live forever. And it's really not the truth, because you're dying so fast that 5 more are going to come behind you. And they're going to forget you even died and not even care.
There's not even time to become prolific at the rate that they see things, sort of aging online.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time, Tupac had met his demise, he had already made so many records and had so much music that his legacy was secure.
And again,
he had a lot of music that continues to live on for that reason.
But again, it was the content. Look how diverse,
100%.
content rich his music was. Because it doesn't matter if he had 1,000 songs. If it was 1,000 songs of senseless anything that didn't touch anyone, it wouldn't matter. And that's the difference. And that's what our young people need to realize. It's the content.
And and Pac had a vision. Pac had a vision. He always talked about his vision. And, to piggyback off of what Vinnie said, just for a quick second, we're seeing a lot of that here in Los Angeles. We're seeing a lot of young men, dying on social media, dying on Instagram Live, a lot of young artists getting robbed for jewelry, a lot of in-house robberies, home invasions on young artists. And it really, with this young mentality, it really is, like Vin said, it's a curse. It's people dying to be successful. I'm dying for fame.
And how do you impact that when these kids don't feel like they need to listen, right? When it's like a total knucklehead factor. It's like, I'm rich, I'm coming up off of an illegitimate business, I'm crossing over, I got my manager, I got my muscle, I don't need to listen to you about song structure, creative control, intellectual property, financial literacy, any of that. I'm gonna just take this 360 deal and I'm gonna
But
keep
you
it
know
pushing.
what?
You know,
I
because like
think they do need to listen,
I
because
agree.
Yeah.
one thing I'm sure Yo-Yo can attest to is that, hey, we're, 70s babies, and we're able to walk around East Coast, West Coast, and get nothing but love from the people,
Yeah.
So we don't have to walk around like looking over our shoulder and fearing where this stuff is going to come from. So I would say to our young people out there, hey, we're a testament to longevity. And if you want to live long, a long, peaceful, carefree life, you
Yeah.
would want to study some of your hip hop icons who are
Yeah.
still out here and see how they move in the streets, and see that they don't have to run with a pack of wolves and
Right.
you're ready for a shootout all the time.
Yeah.
And again, it's that energy you put out is what you're going to receive.
And for those who are working with artists, like the parents out there and the managers, people who are bringing me these young artists saying, well, yo, I got them this new chain. It's not a real chain, yo, but it's fitting the look. It's looking like I want them to look, this is just, and I'm saying, listen, with that needs to come some substance, and parents who are pushing their artists and managers who are pushing young artists out there need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that with that needs to come that conversation. And those are the times that those conversations can be said, which, they don't listen, but it has to be a give and take. And that's the reason why I mentioned my kids, because with that same mentality, there is a strategic effort to beat past that stubbornness that I have to do with my kids, and I use that same tactic with artists that approach me.
So talk about some of the hardest lessons that you learned, along your way in transitioning out of music and into the new areas that you're in, or perhaps it wasn't so much about it being difficult, but like acquiring new skill sets or broadening your network and figuring out who you could trust in these new arenas, right? Because you have sort of who you know and who you trust from your careers, or who to avoid. But then if you're coming into the tech sector, for example, or you're coming into academia or education, there's going to be some new learning that usually takes place, right? I certainly had to train to become a voice actor. It wasn't something that I went to school for at all, but if I wanted to pursue it as a career, then I had to take on, I got to learn about the things that you guys know about as MCs: breath technique, microphone technique, diaphragmatic breathing, taking care of my body so I can perform, coaching, right? Pulling from an emotional well, even when you're tired, right? Being able to generate the same excitement and emotion every time, night after night, right? Recording after recording. So what new skills in your transitions as you've pivoted have you picked up, or have you, had a sense of there were skills that were transferable from the business that I handled in music that I was able to bring over here? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Go ahead, Vinny. I'll let you start.
I would say, especially in the political arena, I do a lot of work, and I've always done a lot of work in the community with my mayor, city council, all of that stuff. And I remember when we first came up as Naughty by Nature, of course, we had a lot of street kids around us. And when we blew up in the mid to early 90s, I mean, our town was off the hook. And what I learned was a lot of the politicians were just blaming us for the chaos in the streets, as opposed to kind of embracing us. So I had to learn how the political system worked. I had a former police officer say, you know what, Vin? Basically, what's happening in the city is that the local government is using your brand to apply for state and federal funds in the name of gang prevention, and they're blaming you for it. They're blaming your crew for it. And it's the same way your record label exploits your brand to sell records. So they're getting budgets in the name of gang prevention. And this is why you can't penetrate them, because why would they work with you in the name of gang prevention when you're the reason why they're catching the bag? You see?
Wow.
So instead of us being
they have boxed you out.
Yeah,
Wow.
And used your name at the same time.
That's right. Politically, we were boxed out, and I just learned to keep a calm head. And just like our ancestors before us, it's a strategy thing. So you have to keep a calm head. You have to play politics, and by the grace of God, regime changes happen. So there were a lot of people who participated in local politics that were like, even it was politics and in law enforcement. I remember we had friends who grew up with us, went to college and stuff with us. They would stand up in the middle of these symposiums they would have while they're breaking down the whole gang circle thing. And they would stand up risking their jobs saying, listen, what y'all doing are wrong, because we grew up with Naughty and we know what they're about. And y'all know that they're hands-on with the community. Why are y'all doing this to them? You know? So lo and behold, through the years, regimes change. And then there were people in politics, local politics, who knew what happened and they couldn't wait to get in position to come and embrace us. And now we have a great relationship with our mayor, Ted Green, the previous mayor. I served on the transition teams for both mayors.
Awesome.
For recreation and cultural affairs. So we deal with all the recreation in the parks and recreation happenings that's going on in the city. And now it's like I'm embedded in the city. So I learned that you have to hold your head and you just have to navigate when they stiff arm you. Sometimes as celebrities, we kind of get spoiled because everyone praises you and everyone says yes. But if you step out of that circle and go into another arena, you'll get hard nosed, you know, and you'll realize that, hey, that real world is definitely cutthroat out there.
Yeah.
And that Parks and Rec you can't sleep on, because that's really that intersection of arts, culture, and the community, right? And where entertainment becomes accessible to people who may not have high incomes or who may not be mobile. It's like you're bringing all of those cultural contributions directly to them. And so it's a very powerful place to sit. You know, people hear Parks and Rec and they think, oh, it's just, you know, the parks in the neighborhood. I mean, we know that, you know, hip hop started out in the parks. And that the parks are a powerful epicenter of community. And so, you know, what you're talking about, I can't wait for Du to come on and really sort of echo this, because as somebody who's running for councilman in Newark, he can probably speak directly to this perception that they probably have of him as being some rap guy trying to get into their game, right? Right. Yo-Yo, talk to us real quick.
Well, mine is different, you know, coming from a different angle. You know, my transition was more spiritual. I started transitioning, kissing 30, thinking, you know, music, what am I going to do? I really didn't feel like, of course, hip hop, I had a solid foundation in hip hop, and I always wanted to transcend. I always wanted to do more. I always used to say, you know, I would talk to politicians, I would talk to my community, say, use me, use me, use me. I just, because, you know, when I started, they say, well, is hip hop here to last? And what do you feel about hip hop? And are you a role model? We had all this stuff. And what are you doing with your money? And how are you contributing to society? And are you really a bitch? They had all these questions. Then you reach this point in your life, you say, well, what do I do? Here I am now. I'm able to buy a house. I'm able to, I have recognition. You know, what do I do with this fame? I needed to do more with the fame. I needed to stand out. And that transition, leaving Atlantic Records, WIA, Warner, music, and trying to find a transition for myself, it became spiritual for me. Because I felt like I was in quicksand. And so for me, it was more getting grounded with myself. I had to swallow my pride. And for me, that came in my spiritual realm, where I had to surrender. So I lost everything that Cube gave me, Sylvia Rohn and Atlantic, East West Warner built for me. And I started building and planting my own seeds. And that started in my own backyard. Like you said, parks and recreation, community. I had to start showing up. I had to get rid of my pride. I had to humble myself, and I started meeting people. When you are born into this industry, I didn't know who I was working with. I didn't know half of the regional reps. I mean, I knew my regional reps, but I didn't know the record execs. I didn't know the people who were playing my music. They had all the relationships. My Rolodex was empty. So I had to humble myself and step back out. And I think along the way, going to acting school, I mean, saying yes was so powerful for me because I had so much pride being yo-yo. So I felt like my garden was already green. Like, you know, metaphorically, I already had these palm trees. I already had wheatgrass growing. I already could go and get whatever I wanted. But when I surrendered, I had just dirt. You know, all of that had washed away. So these new seeds I was planting were from people who didn't have the budget. It was from people who had a vision, people who had an idea. It was for people who liked what I was doing or wanted to work with me. And so me saying yes was me planting these seeds that began to grow. Creating the Yo-Yo School of Hip Hop came at the worst time of my life. God told me to say yes. I could barely pay my mortgage. And here I was paying rent. So I went to acting school. I thought I was going to learn how to act because I was sick and tired of playing Kilo Low and all of the ghetto roll your hands. But just me saying yes, humbling myself and going to get some help, transitioning into something else and investing into myself. I went to learn how to act, and I learned how to get real. I didn't realize how fake I was. I didn't realize that people wasn't believing my lies, you know, so a lot of that just taught me. So that transition for me, I would say, was becoming more spiritual, was more grounding for myself. It was when people say looking in the mirror, literally taking off the rose-colored glasses and really getting deep down, getting dirty. It was like cleaning your own, you know, looking at yourself. And you know, you want love. What kind of love? You know, you want celebrity love, like, or you know, or do you want real love? So the transition for me was being real with myself. And I took all the steps to do it. I said yes, I showed up. And then the grass started showing. And then I started letting God lead my life. And, you know, it just changed for me.
Yeah, it is.
But you also did the work.
Yeah.
Yes, did the work. Yes.
It is crazy because we realized, like, we were really kids growing up in this industry. And we're coming out 18, 19, 20 years old. We literally been child stars. We never look at a lot of our hip hoppers as child stars or children stars, but we really were. We all started in high school, 14, 15, 13 years old. And then when you get on, you know, professionally and get signed to a label, next thing you know, 10, 20, almost 30 years of your life goes away and you're looking like, who am I? Even I got trapped in that bubble. I remember, like, every day I would have on a Naughty by Nature t-shirt. One day I looked, I'm like, wait a minute, are these the only clothes I have? You know? Sometimes, and it took a minute to just step back. And now that I'm 50 years old, I'm like, hold on. I have to get back to Vinnie Brown. I have to center myself. I have to separate the two and look at the second half of my life to really reclaim my life and reclaim my life from the entertainment industry.
And I think that's how you grow. I mean, I look at a lot of people and I study a lot of artists and I see like a lot of success happens. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of death happen at this age, but there's a lot of success stories that start at 47, 45 and up, you know, where people really start, you know, you didn't allow yourself to fade away. And that's what we talked about earlier on in this conversation about showing up. And I think that's so important.
I also see, you know, folks from this next generation of artists and athletes and actors really prioritizing their well-being. You know, whether it's Kid Cudi talking about, you know, mental wellness, or Naomi Osaka, you know, just telling the French Open that, you know, she can pay the fine or she cannot play, but what you're not going to do is mess with my mind.
That's right.
Because I'm here to play tennis. I'm not here to appease the press, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that level of boldness and really standing up for themselves is something that is different about, you know, this generation. Whereas I think the boldness happened with us, but it was expressed creatively. And in a lot of ways, we just kind of, you know, as a collective, accepted whatever the norm was supposed to be about how the industry worked. You know, save a couple artists and entrepreneurs who decided that they were going to take ownership, like, you know, Master P or Sylvia Robinson. You know, for the most part, people wanted to get signed. They wanted a deal, you know?
Right.
And I think that's not necessarily the priority, you know, now. It's like, I really want to focus on me and however I'm going to make my money and be satisfied with myself. Even at this younger age, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever people think the path of least resistance is, or the traditional way of doing that is.
Well, and that's the gift of the internet and the technology now, because all of these themes, they're easier to spread, they're easier to distribute to the younger people. So when you're talking about mental wellness, if you're talking about business strategies and ownership, if you're talking about eating well and exercising, all of that info is there. And because of podcasts, you get a lot of great sound bites and these one-on-one interviews that are really on demand. So our young people are blessed in the sense that all of this information is on demand. And because of the headlines and mass media, these themes come through your feed literally, and it's easier to access. So it makes it easier to digest. And our kids are going up and growing up with that mentality like, hey, I don't necessarily only want to have a job. I want to have a job or have some kind of stable income, but I'm always going to invest in myself and invest in a side business.
And you know what else I like? I like that, I like that, a lot of our generation are speaking their truth. You hear a lot of that. I remember when that word was just coming around the corner, people speaking their truth and living their truth. Because you didn't really have a lot of conversations. I was speaking about my girl, Lauren Hill, earlier. There's a lot of people that have struggled and went through a lot of depression, a lot of different things. And they didn't have, they didn't hear about people's relationship. And if you did, it was more on a Wendy Williams show where you were getting talked about, not talked to. And so I think for us, having these conversations, me seeing more of artists and hearing their stories. You talk about bebop to hip hop. You talk about the history of hip hop. Seeing Mary J. Blige tell her truth and seeing her story on Amazon Prime was so powerful. Why? Because we feel like she was a part of us, but yet we can't learn from anyone if we don't hear their story. Tell us. Africans, we are Africans. We need to hear the history of our people in order to grow. And everything is not glitter and gold. Everything is not ruby and diamonds. We need to know the struggle is real. We need to talk about relationships. We need to talk about women. Black women especially needs to have a voice, not just in music, not just in journalism, and are not just sitting pretty or showing how we can be sex symbols, but we need to talk about, have a forum where we are heard. And and it doesn't just necessarily needs to come from some beautiful Jewish woman who's been locked in a room all of her life.
Right. You're muted, Thembisa.
Sorry about that. Trying to cut down on the noise no, it's all good. I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that the key difference here than in decades past, with a few exceptions, is that we're actually makers and creators of these films and these documentaries. Questlove and Summer Soul, Mary J. Blige, My Life, right? Like, we're telling our own stories as producers. Oh, let us welcome the campaigning councilman, the member of the platinum-selling, globally renowned group, Lords of the Underground. We know you are, campaigning and busy. So welcome, Dupre Kelly, everybody.
It's been crazy.
Wow.
YoYo, what up,
literally
lady?
Hopping off the plane and into the car and onto this call. That's commitment. That's why you're where you are today, because of that level of hustle and commitment and keeping your word. So we appreciate you being here and making the time.
I'm upset because I haven't been able to get on the phone with people that I love. T, you already know how far we go back. Vin, that's my brother. I can't even say no more.
Jersey.
And YoYo, every time we get together, it's just nothing but smiles and laughs. And I know.
Congratulations. I love you.
Are you by yourself in the car? Can you take your mask off?
No, he's on the plane.
I'm on the plane.
You're on the plane? Oh my God.
Yeah,
well, if you want to put it on, that's okay.
Cool. I mean, I'm just hoping I'm not scaring everybody around me. But I'm
Okay,
look, we're
okay.
almost
Partial.
there. You hear me?
So we
We're
were
at the
talking a little
gate. We've
bit.
been stuck at the gate like for a half
Oh,
hour. But go ahead.
oh man. So you landed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, because you're fresh into this
Right.
conversation, but we were talking earlier about political engagement and
Right.
impacting the community, from our vantage points as, hip hop uh, legends, hip hop bricklayers, as it were. Um, oh, they're saying turn your headphone volume down a little bit, dude. I
Okay, my
guess
volume down.
Down or up?
turn it down. Oh, turn it up. Turn it up. I'm sorry. Turn it up a
Turn
little
it
bit.
up. Turn your
Yeah.
volume up. Yeah.
I think I did.
Okay. Good stuff. So, oh, she said it's good. She said you're good now.
Okay, it's good. We
All
good. We
right.
good. Okay.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a little bit about what it was like to, to borrow a phrase from Primo and Guru, may he rest in peace, to step in the arena, right? To be someone who was known as a lyricist and as an artist, and who now, did we lose him just like that? Is he gone? No, come back. All right, I'll wait for him to call back because this is a burning question that I want him to answer. Oh, I hear something. Maybe he's coming back. Oh, okay. They're saying that he'll be back, so we'll give him a moment to tap back in. Here we go. So my question, can you hear me, dude?
Yeah. You said what is it
Yeah.
like to step
Yeah,
into
what is
the
it like
arena?
to step in the arena as somebody that they don't perceive as being politically savvy or being connected to the community in the way that they're accustomed to people being connected, right? And being an unlikely candidate, but also somebody that they should really be concerned about because of the connections that you've already forged as an artist, right? And you're coming into your connections from a very authentic, creative place. But talk a little bit about what it's like to sort of, kick that door in and say, I'm here and you're going to listen to me and to my constituents.
Well, first of all, we got to understand what hip hop has done to the arena, right? Hip hop has always been a form of a platform that has talked about social injustices and things of that nature early on in its career, from Melly Mel with The Message and all of those type of songs. And, we've used hip hop has become the I guess, for lack of better words, most the pop culture, right? Hip hop is now the pop culture.
100%.
And in my 5 decades of living, whatever the pop culture is, it always moves society forward. So as it moves society forward, it has to be included. It has to be inclusive of things that are happening in our society. We get elected officials elected. We sell everything from advertisements to fried chicken to dishwashing detergent to anything politically, locally, or federally, or statewide. So therefore, we have to be included. We can't just be asked who or what, but we need to be at the table to make those legislative decisions to see who or what. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes.
we have to be included in the conversation. We don't have to just be asked about the conversations. We need to be included in the decision making of the conversations. And that's my whole point.
Did you come up against any resistance? Because this
Most
is the first
definitely.
time that you've run, but maybe talk a little bit about, making that transition and letting them know that you weren't going anywhere and you weren't intimidated by that.
Yes, I think that it's not as easy as people think because you want to be authentic, right? You want to be represent. You want to be able to represent the real things that are happening. It's not, what I'm getting right now is that, this is a rapper running for office. It's not just a rapper running for office. This is somebody from the community who has relationships and understandings of how the community moves, that's running for office
And has the
in the
trust of the
community.
constituents.
Right, who has
Yeah.
the trust of the community, and that's what it is. But not only the trust of the community, who has a track record of doing things in the community, who has the track record. See, I'm not just a rapper. I'm a rapper
Period.
who has an education,
Uh-huh.
HBCU education. I'm a rapper who's been with the Bloods and Crips on the boots on the ground in the neighborhoods. So while people are talking all of this smart ABC 1, 2, 3, I'm forming truces with Bloods and Crips. I'm in the neighborhoods talking to the residents and the relationships with the people. So do you want somebody? You want this rapper in the
Yeah.
community,
Exactly.
you know, especially when you are considering hip hop, the hip hop culture. See, I am what hip hop looks like grown up.
Right.
It's no longer the to be scared or afraid of what we call a
Right.
rapper. You
Tell
know,
them.
hip
Yeah,
hop will
because
be 50 years
yeah,
old
yeah.
next
And what's
year.
wrong with hip hop? And what's
Right.
wrong
What's
with hip
wrong
hop?
with hip
Yeah,
hop?
because you know what? You use us for everything. You want
Right.
our opinion. You help us sell stuff, just like you just said. You want us to sell and to get out the thing to vote, but you don't want them to vote for me. No,
Right.
that's a lot of hoopla, and they want to keep you insecure. So I'm glad to see us using our power in more than just one way. So
Right.
I'm happy to see that.
Right.
That's
Can we
called the
talk?
sleeping giant. It's
Yeah,
called the sleeping giant, and that's what they're afraid of. Hip hop maturing. So that's what you see, the maturation of hip hop, and the stat
right.
court definitely
See,
doesn't like that.
and
Right.
once we have representatives who come from hip hop culture in these halls of power, then the community becomes more informed and more empowered about what these bodies do. Because city councils in some cities are more powerful than other parts of the municipality. Other parts of the state legislature don't have the same powers as the city councils have.
Right.
Similarly, the governor's office has a different level of power. And so like people got to understand that once we're there, we can share with them what it is to make a difference in terms of how criminal justice is meted out for us,
Right.
in terms of how budgets are allocated for us, and in
Yeah.
terms of how those larger elections that people tend to focus on every 4 years really actually ladder up from municipal, local, and state elections. We elect judges in a lot of cases. We elect prosecutors in a
Yep.
lot of states and in cities. And we need to really help people understand who does what where. The thing that I feel like is sorely missing for young people, and I'm talking all the way up into their 20s, right, is the basics of civics, right? Like, no, the
Exactly.
president doesn't do
3A,
everything.
3B.
And if you really want something to directly impact your community, you have to start with those local electeds, and put the ones that you want and that in place, right?
And
So,
that's one thing I always say, that in our public education system, we should definitely double and triple down on civics, because just from my participation in politics and being on a transition team, when I look around the room and I see every person that represents every vertical that it takes to run a city, I'm like, wow. It's almost like this is what they mean by you're sitting in Illuminati. And it's not Illuminati, it's just the people
right, it's your
who.
elected officials.
And if our young people are well versed in civics at an early age, then they could grow into
Thank you. Somebody
politics
must have
and
snatched.
participate way more than we have traditionally. And I think a lot of it is by design, and you could tell by the way that they're going so hard to block all of the voting going on right now. They're
Right.
literally trying to strip things backwards because they see the
Thank you.
minority lining
Well, the
up.
minority is becoming the majority.
That's
And
right.
it's deeply disturbing to them that they're not going to be able to just have their way with this electorate, right?
Exactly.
So, that gets me to something that I want to talk about because it's directly connected to our livelihood as creatives, right? And that is, lobbying Congress to improve upon these streaming rates, right? Because digital is the future. Brick
Yep.
and mortar and buying CDs and jewel cases is pretty much a wrap. Vinyl is making a comeback, but its percentage is very low compared to what's happening with streaming. And when we look at artists receiving fractions of pennies per stream, people say, well, how can we get that to be changed, or how can that be different? Well, the DSPs are not going to regulate themselves. They have to be regulated, and it's Congress that regulates them. So something that's really important to me is creating an awareness among our constituents, our communities, our electorate, right? If we love culture and we love music and we love hip hop, then we need to advocate for candidates that are going to do what they can do to make sure that the creators are paid well. Because the DSPs make money on advertising, they make money from labels, and they make money from subscribers. But the artists don't get any parts of that.
Well,
they
and
get fractions of pennies.
I feel that's why they shouldn't be the only game in town, you know. And big tech is huge tech right now, and they need to be broken up as well. You know, all of the VCs, the venture capitalist firms, you know, we do have to go to the table and represent more minority investment. You know, and then that gives you the ability to develop a competing DSP. So not only is it Congress, it's like break it up so other people can get in the game. Shouldn't be two major DSPs out there.
Right.
You know, local politics is more important sometimes on a local level than federal politics because it has a greater impact in the community. You know, it trickles up. I know a lot of times they say that we want the federal politics to trickle down, but the trickling up politics is what happens in local community, because when the local community makes noise, it allows their community to get more dollars for their city to help their city. And then, you know, it helps municipality wise, then it goes to state level, then state level represents you on a higher level and not federal level. So if you don't vote or bring the right people in on a local level, then of course your state dollars and your state representation will always be messed up on a federal level. So people think that they shouldn't vote on local level, but that is the most important level to vote.
It's like Georgia got flipped and impacted the federal election.
Right.
Yeah, trickle down never works.
Excellent.
It never will.
Well, let me ask you. No, right. It was like a hoax from Ronald Reagan, the whole trickle down thing. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Right.
Have the power to the people in place. It's really a matter of how they corrupt the ability of the masses to have that power. Well, through lobbying, through, you know, payouts, through, you know, quid pro quo and all of that. So then the power of the masses gets diluted on the way up the chain. And it doesn't trickle down. You know, once people have already made their side deals, they go to the floor to vote. And that's why who gets elected is important. I did want to ask each of you what you felt your contemporaries could do more consistently for the benefit of our industry or for our communities. You know, we're talking about hip hop having grown up. And I don't necessarily want to name names or whatever, but one of the things that I think about is that I would love for recording artists to unionize. You know, I see within other sectors of entertainment how important it is for them to be protected, whether it's hairstylists, carpenters, camera operators. I'm in SAG-AFTRA, so I'm protected as a working actor. Recording artists and DJs can actually join SAG-AFTRA. But I personally would love to see a recording artist union so that we can actually support each other in terms of getting fair rates. Unions provide that blanket and that cover. You know, being in SAG-AFTRA, you know, Denzel Washington helps keep the lights on. We're in the same union, and we're on one accord in terms of what that union does for us.
Definitely.
And so, you know, that's one of the things that I think our contemporaries
to do something like that.
Go ahead, YoYo. Sorry, there's a little delay.
Yeah. We tried to do something like that before. We just need to really, we just really need to, continue working with the Legends of Hip. Just the Legends organization and a lot of other organizations who have a broader spectrum. And because what we really need, I think, is the commitment and the committee. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you talk about unions, I've been speaking to Congressman Donald Payne about that. About having a union that not just what we have for AFTRA and SAG, but a union for artists, musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and artists alike. It's no way that we're $1 billion industry and we don't have a union, that we're not unionized.
Right.
I think it's important because you have people who are passing away who have set the blueprint for this genre of music, and they don't have any health benefits. They don't have any death benefits. They don't,
Right.
and that's kind of crazy. So I think that when they don't even have people to find their royalties, so I think
Exactly.
that if we
There's
had a
strength in
union,
numbers with respect to that. And we can't
right?
look for the performing rights societies or the labels to do that because they don't
Carrie
necessarily
Gordon,
have a
Carrie
connection
Gordon to
to
do
those
it.
legacy artists.
Yeah,
Carrie
yeah.
Gordon to do it. Carrie will do it for you.
Yeah, right. Carrier, go find your royalties. But I mean, I think it's very important that our artists that we respect have health benefits and health care and just financial, just finding out who and where and protecting them financially when it comes to their royalties, because anytime that you sign a deal that's less than your share market value, as we should say, and you're surviving off of your brand or your name, when your brand or your name starts to die down, then you lose out because people forget about you. But with the union, maybe they won't forget about you because we won't allow them to forget about you,
That's right.
and
Right.
that your works speak for itself. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been having conversations with congressmen already. Congressman Eddie Milton, Congressman from Gary, Indiana, Congressman Donald Payne from New Jersey. So we're having these conversations, and I'm having these conversations with them as a nonprofit guy, But once we get in office, then we'll have it as an elected official guy, and hopefully it will have more of an impact. I mean, if we can get 1 million
Right.
people to
It'll
buy
have a different.
records, then we can get 1 million people to buy into unionizing and supporting and protecting our artists.
I mean, I think it's ironic that they call these deals 360 deals, but they're not holistic for
Hmm.
the artists. They don't talk about tutoring for the younger artists. They don't talk about
Right.
healthcare. They don't talk about death benefits. They don't talk about taking care of the human that is at the center of this creativity that they're
Right.
taking every penny they can off of them in that contract, right?
Even the
Right.
So
NBA, even the NBA has a rookie type of deal where they
they have a
make sure
players
that,
association that looks out for the
yeah,
players.
that's
And
right. They
they
look
and
out
they
for the
sit at the
players.
table with the owners. Exactly.
If a rookie makes more than, I think a rookie can't make more than $9 million or 9.8 million or something, whatever it is. But they make sure that they understand that young people, when they get money, when they get millions of dollars,
Yeah.
multi-millions of dollars, it doesn't
That's
come
right.
with instructions. And a
Yep.
lot of
Right.
these people that come from money, that get this money, they don't come from money. So if you
Right.
Right.
don't come from money, how can someone educate you on money? So they take the stance that we're going to educate them when they come in. And we need to do that. That's $1 billion business, right? So we
Right.
need to do that with our $1 billion business, with this, which is the culture of hip hop, which is rap music. Whether you're a producer or whether
Right.
you're a rap artist, whatever it is, we need to take the same stance.
All right, Vinny, let's get started, you guys. Let's not talk
Word,
about it. Let's be
Yeah,
about it.
word.
Let's get started,
definitely,
Vinny. Let's get
definitely.
started, you guys. T, come on, let's get
Yeah,
started.
And
I'm
that's
with
why
it.
I'm saying too, even with my run this time as my campaign in Newark, New Jersey as the West Ward councilman, this vote is not just for the West Ward residents. This vote is, as I always say, even last election, this vote is for the people and the culture of hip hop. Because now, if we get an elected official, and I don't care what city it is, it just happens to be on the table of Newark, New Jersey right now. This is a blueprint for the culture of hip hop. That means
Yeah,
that whatever YoYo wants to do, then she can sit down with a
yeah,
viable person and talk about things that she wants to do, even
yeah.
if we use Newark as a
As
blueprint.
a foundation, yes.
Right. If Vinny wants to come from East Orange, we already doing it though. And we talk about viable situations that can stretch way past Newark, New Jersey. So I don't want people to think that this is a hip hop vote in Newark, New Jersey. No, this is a viable candidacy for Newark, New Jersey and the culture of hip hop and beyond.
Yeah, and we
Well,
support you.
as well, it opens the floodgates for hip hop is also. So now you
Yes.
have Chicago, you have LA, you have
Facts.
the entire country where we have a person from hip hop culture, recording artist, actor, whatever, who's into politics, but maybe not feel like, oh, I should run. You know, this move that Do is making to encourage a lot of people to say, you know what? Well, let me step up. And now we have a national coalition of people who are us, and that'll make it even easier.
Right.
Right.
That's
Right.
fact.
So I have a question that I want to ask, and I'm waiting to see if there's any that come in that we haven't sort of covered in the discussion at this point. But knowing everything that you know
And I
now,
apologize once again too, man, for my background. The plane was late.
no,
I'm
listen,
looking crazy. I'm just here, man.
I'm so blown away that you are doing this while moving, like while deplaning in a pandemic, in an airport. Like, I mean, it's just, I'm so thankful that you were able to join us and to really give us your perspective as somebody who is in the trenches, you know, and really working within these halls of power. I mean, certainly as a community leader, but now as somebody who, you know, I'm declaring is going to be elected. You know, I've been donating to your campaigns, whatever they were. I was like, look, take this money, brother. We got to get you in there. So every rung of the ladder gets you closer to the win, and I feel like it's happening this time. So, you know,
yeah, it definitely is, man. Shout out to Team Baraka too. You know,
absolutely.
You know, Mayor Baraka in the city of Newark, New Jersey. I thank him, you know, for believing in me this campaign. But, you know, that's just the testitude of how I ran my first campaign. You know, somebody's not gonna mess with you if they feel like you weren't, you know, you didn't put in the work. And we put in the work. And you know what's great about this campaign for me is like this is actually the ward that I grew up in. Myself, Redman, Rod Digger, Artifacts. This is the ward that we grew up in. So I know this landscape very, very well. That's like Vin running for down the hill in East Orange, double live. You know what I mean?
And they've been trying to get me to do that for years, dude.
I was about to say, come on, hip hop grown up. Come on, Vin Rock.
Yeah,
exactly.
but that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
So,
I think that you should. I mean, I'd love to support you as your hip hop sister, even from the West Coast, because you know this World Wide Web is so powerful that if you know, I would love to support you from the West Coast and just have your back and just show you some love from the West Coast and really just show you some sister love and use our relationships and our resources. I know he's dropped off, but he's
he'll come back.
done amazing. But I just think that it's just necessary that we stand together. The more support we have of one another, for one another, with each other means so much. I mean, the relationship I have with Vin means so much to me, not just because Vin is from Naughty by Nature, but because he's in hip hop. He's my brother. The conversations, like I said, that of the world don't get a chance to hear because there is not so much exposure, or they don't give him the platform that all the time that I would love to see him on, because I think he's one of the most intelligent young men in hip hop that I've come across. I just always love to see it. And Vin will tell you, I'm a sponge, right, Vin? I will stand under you, not just because I love his company, of course, but because I love the knowledge. I love hearing him. You know, I don't bleed his ear out about hip hop. And when we get together, we don't always talk about hip hop, but we do. It's a part of our lives. And I hear his conversation, and it needs to be more of it. And so that's what I'm saying. I'd love to support him and his endeavors and show, just even if I just put it out there on my social media and let my fans ask him some questions,
that's all it takes.
Inspire him,
Well, what I say to people,
go ahead.
What I say to people who are in other places in the country, but they want to support a candidate, is to just donate to their campaign, because it takes money to win these elections.
Yes.
It takes resources, right? So, when I was seeing races in the states leading up to the federal, and there was a candidate that I liked that reflected my values, whether I knew, the candidates directly or not from, lived experience in their area, in their districts. I was giving them money because I know they need the money. So if I can't give them my vote because I don't live there, I'm going to donate to their campaign. And that's exactly what should be happening for Do. If you feel like the value line up with yours, you got to, $5, $10. Like President Obama really laid the roadmap.
No, we need some of that bottle money our young people are tricking off in these funds,
And I agree 100%. The Jordan's money, the Yeezys money, the bottles money.
The Stella McCarthy money.
Right. But for those of us, and we always have to sort of tuck our privilege on that too, right? It's like there are people whose incomes are not commensurate with that lifestyle.
Right.
And we need them to know that their $5 and their $15 actually matter as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to give each of you a chance to just answer a quick question. We're talking about sort of looking back and, the wisdom of getting older, but aging in reverse, as one of my T-shirts says. I got to get one of those for you, Yo-Yo.
I need that. Okay. I need that too.
All of y'all need that. So knowing everything that you know now, what advice would you give to your younger artist self, your younger MC self, right?
That's a great question.
One of the things for me that I've always said to myself is that the overachieving wasn't necessary. Like we get pounded with this whole thing of like, we got to go above and beyond. And half the time our excellence already trumps the mediocre of the other group. So you don't have to try to, kill yourself or have yourself passing out or have your health failing to try to, outwork everybody all the time. Your excellence is enough, right? And that was the thing that my younger self really didn't get. Like I graduated from high school at 16. I finished undergrad at 20. I was really just trying to do the most all the time. And in the end, my well-being suffered, right? And we talked a little bit earlier about self-care around that, right? So what would you tell your younger self with everything that you know now? Yo-Yo, go ahead.
I would tell myself to shut up. I would tell myself to shut up. I think I would just say, listen more than you speak. And, just stay humble. Just listen and try. Listen and try somebody else's way. Your way is not always the best way. Just shut up, listen, and try somebody else's way.
I would say my youngest self, I would say, you know what? The path you were on was important because although I came up at 21 years old, made my first $1 million at 21, it's always been in my heart and soul to engage in local politics, engage in the community. And as I travel the world and I see all of this massive wealth, like 4th of July weekend, I was out in Nantucket, and to see all of this wealth that's out here, and I understand what you were saying, Thembisa, like it's not always about going that hard, but these people out here aren't playing fair. And from generations ago, how we got here, how the wealth of this country was built, it's really, really lopsided. So it's urgent.
There's been a lot of cheating.
That's right. A lot of cheating.
Generational cheating.
That's right. And it's urgent for us to be as educated and as informed and as well read as possible, because that's the only way you're going to level out this playing field. So to me, it's all about education and politics. Once you level that playing field, now you're really talking, because they are not playing fair. Until this day, they are not playing fair. They're working on reversing it. And I think that's the thing we sleep on. Like, hey, things are good now because we're not slavery anymore. If you don't stay on point, they will reverse everything and you'll be ran to an incinerator. If somebody
Wow, deep. So go ahead, do it. People are asking on the chat for your website to donate. So start with that and then tell us what you would say to your younger MC self.
The website right now is doitallfornorth.com, and it's under maintenance right now. And that's only because I'm just getting back, but it should be going. But it's the Friends of Dupre Kelly. You can donate, you can Cash App, you can PayPal, Friends of Dupre Kelly. And that's DUPRE. 1E, DUPREKELLY, Friends of Dupre Kelly.
Does that have the ad handle on it for your Cash Apps and your Venmos and all of that?
Yeah. Friends of Dupre Kelly.
Okay, and, I put that in the chat for Pat to blast out.
I do have a for those $5 and $10 guys too. I do have a text to donate number, and
It's DoItAllThroughNewark.com.
Yes,
for when people are ready.
DoItAllThroughNewark.com.
Okay.
And Friends of Dupre Kelly is the
handle. Mm-hmm.
So you can donate it all that. And I do have a
your text
donation number. And I don't know it offhand right now because I might give you the wrong one. I believe it's
okay.
But I have it.
We'll get that out.
We'll get that
out to the audience.
And yeah, man.
And what would you tell yourself?
So myself, what I would tell myself is to utilize and understand your power early. And what I mean your power, I'm talking about hip hop's power. When I made my first $1 million and off of hip hop, and I had millions of people following us, I thought it would last forever. I didn't realize that I should get on my soapbox and use the platform to say something. You know, Run DMC didn't tell me to take the shoestrings out of my shoes and the rock leather blazers and Godfathers. I did it because they said it was cool, you know, and I think that we have to understand what the influence that we have and more worry about the inspiration that we have too. Because I feel like when you're under the influence of anything, you know, you're not really yourself. You know what I mean? You're acting as is or as of something else. You know, something else is leading you. But when you're inspired by something, you're in spirit with it. And I would say, you know, to get more in spirit with what it is that I was doing, and that was hip hop, utilizing the power of hip hop more as I'm doing now, and understanding what that power is. I didn't understand what it was. I thought I was just one of the flyest MCs in the group, you know, as we all did, you know, but we have to understand the platform that we have and understand the power of it. And that's what I'm trying to get across to some of the younger MCs now. You know, understand. I wish Drake really understand his power right now and the power that he commands. I wish Migos, and I'm not saying they don't, but I wish Migos would understand and realize the power that they have to do so many different things, and Little Baby and Da Baby and all of these
know
guys.
That you can do both. You can have this career as an MC, and you can also finance candidates, and you can also tell your fan base how to impact the elections. You can do both.
You don't necessarily have to be the candidate. But you can empower the people who
and you don't necessarily have to put it in your raps, because now you got social pages. You can just talk about it. You can fire up a video. You can go live with candidates. You can use your platform. You don't have to become this preachy MC if that's not your brand or who you are or what you know.
Totally right, T.
Right? Everybody's not going to be Tuck D, but use your million followers and leverage that to create change.
Hey, but one thing I do realize,
man. I'm sorry, man. That's what I would tell my younger self, is to utilize who you are and what you are in your platform a little better than you did.
Right. Well, one thing I do know is that with hip hop, once we create the model, oh man, it gets duplicated so much faster, tenfold. So what Du is doing right now, and for the rest of broader hip hop, even global hip hop, to see what's going on, the model is being created, and rest assured there'll be many, many more coming right behind.
Facts.
So I think that MOBE Symposium has been blasting out how to reach each of you, and I think our handles are up on the live. So want to encourage the audience to follow, connect, and share your thoughts. We appreciate all of the comments supporting what everyone's been saying. It's just been pure gems and wisdom drops. This panel was like a power panel. Like, there are no weak links on this panel. Like, everyone is just phenomenal. And I want to thank Vinnie Brown. I want to thank YoYo. I want to thank Dupre. I mean, like, literally people who I've come up with in the business, who have become my friends and who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And so it's just been an honor to guide this conversation and be able to, steer the wisdom that they've shared with you tonight. So thank you all. And thank you to our sponsors, AARP, P&G, BET, MOBE Symposium, MOBE Mondays. That's it for us. One love.
All right.
Good night. Thank you to the panel and everyone else.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all, Vin. Love you.
Yes.
Yo.
Back to you, Yvonne. Love you.
Thank you, everyone.
I love you. Thank you.
Next Monday, July 26th, MOBE Mondays will be presenting Branding and Monetizing Intellectual Property Rights in Music, Sports, Film, and TV. Our panel will consist of the top entertainment lawyers in the country: Kendall Minter, Bruce Siegel, LaRon Rogers, and Daryl Miller. It's a conversation that's not to be missed. We thank all of our audience participants for this live broadcast. Thank you on behalf of MOBE Mondays, and good evening.